Hi, my name is Sadie Stoddard, and I am in love with Justin Bauer.
Hello, I'm Justin Bauer, and I am in love with Sadie Stoddard.
So Justin and I were set up by my dad.
You know, she's gonna tell it differently than I do. I like to think that she lost a bet and just rolled with it. I'm not good for TV. Okay.
I remember when my dad called to see if it's okay for him to give Justin my phone number, and the way he described Justin wasn't the most flattering.
So how did we meet? Well, I work with her dad, and he approached me one day and said, would you be interested in going on a date with my daughter? And I thought to myself, yeah, this can't end poorly. One of the guys that I work with.
And so my initial response was, is he a weirdo?
What? Sure. I didn't I'll take anyone on a date once. And
after that, a couple days after that, Justin texted me.
And we started texting, and she was funny and creative, kept me on my toes, and she had a terrible work schedule, so I never knew when.
We had gotten to the point where I was in our texting conversation where I thought he would ask me out by now, and he hadn't, so I was getting a little frustrated, annoyed with him. So I feel like I made the first move, and in that regard, and was like, hey, when are we getting together? Anyways, our first date was on November 13th.
We finally meet up. She made it so easy. She lives 100 miles away from where I do, and drove down to meet me.
I drove down to Logan in a snowstorm, by the way. We met at his place. We went and got dinner, and then afterwards we made chocolate chip cookies.
And it was the best first date I've ever had.
Our first date was super fun. I had a great time with him.
I know Carl, which is her father, and when I met Sadie, I immediately thought that Carl must have a very pretty wife, because Sadie was gorgeous. Now, he can hear this now, but he'll probably be real nice about it still. Anyway, so that's what I thought. So I remember I saw her face when it was raining, and she was wondering where to park, and I was directing her, and I saw her, and I was like, wow, dang. Her Facebook picture is from 18 years ago, so you're never sure. Anyway, but I remember going inside, I was like, Chelsea, my sister, I was like, man, she's pretty. This is gonna be a great night, It was a great night.
I thought he was just really fun, and just enjoyed being with him. He's very nice, and I was anxious to go on a second date, but I think he was a little more into me after that first date than I was.
You gotta let that run in, the raw footage. Gotta let it be real. After our first date, which was amazing, we texted a bunch, and that was Friday night or Saturday night, and we texted throughout the weekend, and we were planning a video chat date. It's COVID, so it's way different, and we were gonna call. So Tuesday, I was like, hey, I'll call you after work. I want to talk to you. Texting's great, but I want to talk to you. And I don't know, towards the end of the day of work, I was like, man, I really want to meet her. See her again. So I texted her and said, there's got to be a place closer to both of us, halfway. Can we meet halfway? And it was real spontaneous, and she's like, well, you know what? Malad, Idaho, is about halfway between us. Let's plan for that. So I said, all right. So 5 o'clock rolled around, got in the car, drove up there. We would have done something more either in her hometown or where I live now, but we didn't have time. She worked. She had a different schedule, and I had to be at work. It just didn't work out. But so we meet up in Malad, and it turns out there's not a whole lot to do in Malad. So we walked around, went to the bowling alley, and they had a competitive night. And anyway, we just tried to make it fun. Drove around, talked for a while, and then, we probably talked for 2 hours or something like that while we were driving around.
Justin and our relationship has progressed relatively quick, right? And so our second date, he held my hand.
And then I parked by her car again, and we just kept talking, and then, I was feeling it. I was like, hey, are your hands cold, right? Set her up. And then I said, I would like to hold your hand. So we held hands there,
And after that second day, I would get texts from him saying, hey, like my hands are cold. I can't wait for you to hold them again, things like that.
I felt 17 again. It was great. So that was the first move, was hand holding. 4 days later, after our first day. Yes, okay. So that was Tuesday of that week, and we had a great second date. I was like enthralled with Sadie. I was like, she's all that and a bag of chips. It was great. So
so it was a Saturday and I had to go to work that night. Justin drove down to Pocatello to see me for a couple hours.
And I was like, I really want to see her. And I know she had work. She works nights. I knew she had work that evening around like 6 or something. And so noon Saturday, I was like, I'd love to rearrange my schedule and drive up and see her. So I texted her and said, hey, I'm going to come up today. Is that cool? And there was like no response for a while. So I was like, that's not a good sign or whatnot. Turns out she fell back asleep. Anyway, she's like, well, I'm not going to tell you no. I know your schedule's different and whatnot. If you want to come up, come up. So I rearranged my schedule, rescheduled some stuff, and I drove up to Pocatello. And we met up and we went for a walk. She let me hold her hand again. And we talked about a lot of things, and it was fun. I mean, it was a good blend of a lot of different topics. It was cool to learn about her, how she feels about religious things and sports and all kinds of stuff. And
we were there in my apartment sitting on my couch, and he's like, my hands are cold, but my lips are cold too.
And she could figure out where that was going.
And I caught on, and
she leaned in, and we had our first little peck, and it was really fun.
A little kiss, and that was that. First, I love you. Gosh, this story's terrible. Okay.
Let's see, I don't remember how many more dates since that third date together. We kind of spent every evening that we weren't both working or whatnot. We would travel and meet up and go have fun. I don't know how many days it was.
So I had gone down to Logan, and it was nighttime. Justin and I said like a good night prayer together, and then afterwards he was holding my hand, and we have this silly little thing.
We have a lot of like inside joke things.
Because I'm a nurse, he likes to call me a hot nurse, and he'll double squeeze my hand as a way of telling me so. So he's like, so you know what a double squeeze is? And he's like, do you know what a triple squeeze means? And it took me a minute, but I think I caught on. And I was like, Justin, are you trying to tell me I love you?
And one of our inside joke things is the triple squeeze for I love you, anyway, it's kind of funny.
He's like, yeah. And so I said, I love you too, and carry on, and we still, to say I love you, we'll sometimes refer to a triple squeeze.
I said it first to her one night, and then again she said it back, but I can't remember how many days or after that first kiss and whatnot.
So something I love about Justin is that he's very personable and he loves people.
Like a few things about Sadie. We talked about it's kind of funny how we're so different on some things, like yin and yang, right?
He's also very selfless. He's always putting other people's happiness before his own, and will go to great sacrifices to do so.
Probably my favorite thing about her is that she's so easygoing. She makes it easy, she makes it fun.
He's also very thoughtful. One of the first times I came down to visit him in Logan, that morning I woke up and there were a trail of sticky notes leading from the bedroom into the kitchen, just with cute little things on them.
She's also really smart. Her jokes are clever, keeps me on my toes. She's beautiful. There's a lot you could like about Sadie.
And he continues to do that. He'll leave little sticky notes here and there, or in my shoes. And I think it's just the small act that shows how thoughtful he is of me as well as others.
I like how she was pretty chill about where we'd go, what we'd do, but made sure that we always met up for church and things like that. So I love how like laid back she was about things that are probably not essential, and then more important stuff she was a little more deliberate. So. Ooh, I wonder if she's talked about this, but I don't think she has.
I think one of my favorite memories of Justin was, I refer to it as our third date when he came down to Pocatello out of the blue.
Okay, so there are a lot of fun memories we have, but one of the first memories I had were where I was like, man, she is awesome, and I got to pursue this. Well, our first date, we went and went to a burger place, and we were talking about just chatting while we were there, and we talked about how the church has some newer videos of like the Book of Mormon.
Just to come see me, it just really took me off guard because no guy had really made that kind of sacrifice to get together with me. And then that date, we just went for a walk, and he asked me if he made me nervous.
And as I've gotten older, I realized that I'm becoming, maybe Laman and Lemuel weren't so terrible. I mean, like, they were bad, right? But like, anyway, I feel like we were talking about them, and
and I said yes. Anyways, it provided an opportunity for me to just let out all my feelings, and I feel like in that moment is when we really connected and decided to take our relationship to the next level.
I was like, maybe some of their complaints were pretty reasonable, right? Going through and leaving your family and whatnot. And she said something to the fact that, like, they're probably pretty relatable. And I was like, you had me at Laman and Lemuel. But if I don't, preface that, it sounds pretty terrible. So one of my first memories was her being like a real person about, the difficulty in life is, and the stories that we have, growing up. We're like, be like a Nephi or whatnot, She had me at Laman and Lemuel.
I think I had a pretty good idea that Justin was the one.
I feel like we've just rolled with that lost bet, and here we are. She's just riding it out to see what's gonna happen. She doesn't need any dental work, whatnot, so I don't think that's the incentive with that. But
the night after our second date, I went into work, and you know how some people stress eat, I tend to stress starve, and so I hadn't eaten much that day. And it was as at work, I was getting shift report, and began kind of feeling just off and lightheaded and flushed.
I know she's just a special person, I guess. She's kind to me, which is a plus, and tolerates me, that's another plus.
And before I knew, I had passed out, and I was on the ground, surrounded by all these nurses, wondering what was going on. Anyways, it was a funny moment, but it made me realize, I think I really like this boy, and made me really hopeful that things would work out.
Probably the most exciting parts of being married to Sadie will be having a best friend with me all the time, or as much as we can.
Besides the fact that Justin has a really nice king-size bed, is the fact that to just have a best friend around. I realize in life people tend to come and go, and that's just kind of how it is. But I'm excited to have someone that stays, someone that is as kind and genuine as he is, and he's just super great, and he treats me so well. He's just so much, as I told him, he's just so much better than I've ever expected. Being 27 and growing up in the LDS church, you tend to get anxious when that day will come when you get married and meet that someone, and I was starting to get to that point of we're getting tired of waiting, but Justin has definitely been worth the wait, and I'm so excited to spend the rest of my life with him in all of eternity.
Even in the hardest times, we found our way home, driving through the dark.